Hello. I know it's still the season of good cheer and goodwill to all men and all the rest of it, but I saw this article, I just came across it, and I have to say I don't feel an awful lot of goodwill, at least towards this chap, Faisal Bodhi, of the Islamic Human Rights Commission, which is a bit of a joke. I mean, the words. I've no idea what the Human Rights Commission does, but I wonder if it concentrates on this, for instance. Where is it? Yes, here we are. Hardliner clerics in Iran demand more executions and amputations. You see, at this very moment, people who were protesting against the death of a young woman in police custody in Iran are being hanged from cranes in the public square. But according to these Muslim clerics, that's not good enough. They've got to have their fingers and toes amputated as well, as was prescribed in the Quran for traitors or people who became Muslims and then decided maybe it wasn't for them after all. I wonder if Mr. Bodhi, let's see if I'm back in the, there we are, if his Islamic Human Rights Commission is doing anything about that. Or indeed about Pakistan, where, well, I suppose you might call this progress. The number of executions has dropped. It dropped to 650 people executed. I think that's the figure. I don't have it exactly. It's something like that. It was a lot more the year before. So, well, you might call that progress. I wonder if the Islamic Human Rights Commission had anything to do with that. However, this isn't exactly what I wanted to talk about. But because I'm mentioning this right at the beginning of my video, I can't monetize it. So I'm going to tell you who I am now, and I'm going to ask you to remember that when I ask you to support me financially. I'm granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I'm also on Twitter, Gab and Parler, where I am at granniopteryx. I let you know when I've uploaded a new video on Twitter, Gab and Parler. People have complained to me, if they're watching me on YouTube, not only that their subscriptions have dropped, but that they're not getting notifications anymore. So it might be worth your while to subscribe to one of those social media platforms that I'm on. What else? Yes, please like this video. Please share it. And please subscribe, and if you're on YouTube, check that you're still subscribed. And you can support me financially. Buy me a coffee or one of the other links which are in the description. I think that's about it. All the links, all the things I mentioned, they're all in the description. I don't know which browser you have. Sometimes it's below, sometimes it's above the video, but there it is. Okay, let's have a look at this. This is what Faisal Bodhi says. Muslims should not sing the national anthem. So I had a look at 5 Pillars. I just wanted to see what it was. And it says here, 5 Pillars is owned by 5 Pillars Media Limited. That's not a surprise. And when we launched this website in April 2013, we felt that there still wasn't a quality Muslim community media platform which was independent and professional. So 5 Pillars aim to put that right. There's nothing wrong with a social media publication. Nothing wrong at all. I just wonder if they have produced a contradictory article to this one, just to balance it out. Now, this is what Mr. Bodhi says about singing the national anthem. He says it's a demeaning act of civility and surrender and should be condemned. I've been reflecting on the sudden penchant among Muslims for paying their respects to the recently departed Queen by singing the national anthem. Have you noticed how I didn't say the late Queen, just the recently departed one? He's not saying she's died. He's not giving her the respect of saying that. He's not saying they were mourning the Queen, just paying their respects to the recently departed Queen. Now, this guy writes very good English. He knows about the phraseology here. I'm not giving him any benefit of the doubt for not knowing decent English. And as a matter of fact, he mentions benefit of the doubt here. In the Islamic spirit of Husn Adan, I have tried to find justifications for intoning, not singing, intoning, what is essentially a prayer for the monarch. And why not? She is, or was, your monarch. You grew up here by the looks of things. This is the country that sheltered you. This is the country that educated you. This is the country that will pay your old age pension. This is the country that gives you the tolerance of listening to your drivel on such platforms as 5 Pillars. Why shouldn't you pay homage to the monarch that embodies this state? Knowing you could probably go to Pakistan or Bangladesh and settle there, where you won't be demeaned by an act of civility and surrender. You could go back to those places, but you wouldn't want to do that, would you? Because those places, if you'll pardon the expression, or even if you won't, they're shitholes. They're full of corruption, inefficiency, poverty, disease, and corruption. Did I mention corruption before? Yes, I did. I'm mentioning it again because it runs through all Islamic countries like Brighton through a stick of rock. So try as he might, he says, I can only find strong reasons for Muslims not to sing the anthem. And this is his reason. Firstly, as head of state, the monarch embodies all the cruel atrocities and plunder carried out under the British Empire. Have you heard of the word ressentiment? It was used by Nietzsche, I believe. It's certainly used by psychologists. And it refers to the habit of people who feel inferior, who know they're inferior, of trying to do down, of resenting people who are obviously better than them in one way or another, and trying to do them down, trying to pretend to themselves as much as to the rest of the world that these other people are no good and I'm morally superior and better and everything's better about me and my culture or my people or my religion or whatever it is. Well, you see ressentiment in huge dose here. He says the British Empire was, that the monarch embodies all the cruel atrocities and plunder carried out under the British Empire, as if no other empire in the world or no other country in the world did awful things. Every country's done awful things, and none more awful than the Ottoman Empire. None more awful than the Islamic conquests. The word, I suppose most of you have heard of the area of India called the Hindu Kush. That is the mountainous area above the top of India. It's the gateway into India. It's the wall, it's the ramparts, and it's also the gateway. When the Muslims came through there into India, they call that area the Hindu Kush. It means the slaughter of the Hindus. One of those conquerors boasted that he'd piled heads up into heaps so high that a man on a horse couldn't see over them. That's a lot of heads. And this guy, Faisal Bodi, is talking about he's talking about all the cruel atrocities and plunder carried out under the British Empire. The Muslims are supposed to have been responsible for a minimum of 80 million Hindu deaths in India. This is only in India. They're responsible for a lot more in other parts of the world, of course. 80 million deaths, and it could be as much as 200 million. Nobody really knows, because the deaths were so indiscriminate and shocking. And of course, all the women taken into slavery. And he talks about the British Empire, cruel atrocities. The Barbary pirates also victimised Britain Barbary pirates raided on land as well as at sea. In August 1625, corsairs raided Mounts Bay, Cornwall, capturing 60 men, women and children and taking them into slavery. In 1626, St Kevin was repeatedly attacked and boats out of Looe, Penzance, Muscle and other Cornish ports were boarded, their crews taken captive and the empty ships left to drift. It was feared there were around 60 Barbary men of war prowling the Devon and Cornish coasts. But these things were being repeated around the entire coastline of Britain, all up the west coast, including Wales, Scotland. Yeah, they went into Iceland as well, but I'm just talking about Britain. The situation was so bad that in December 1640, a committee for Algiers was set up by Parliament to oversee the ransoming of captives. At that time, it was reported that there were some 3,000 to 5,000 English people in captivity in Algiers. And that's only the ones who were still in captivity and who could be ransomed. Many of them were sold and disappeared into the maw of the Ottoman slave markets. And when a British ambassador for the British Empire in the 19th century told the Ottoman, not the ruler himself, but one of his servants, that the Ottoman Empire had to stop its slave trade, that guy just laughed and said, that's not possible. We can't stop slaving. That's what we do. And the British Empire at the time was powerful enough to force them to stop. Now there's no British Empire. It's back again. Libya has open slave markets now. And this is the entity that he talks about, cruel atrocities and plunder. This is a guy who writes for the Independent and the New Statesman, both left-wing papers. So, yeah, you can see he has that train of thought. And I have to say that Jeremy Corbyn is also someone who wouldn't sing the national anthem. It's not just Faisal Bodhi. Bodhi has just jumped onto the bandwagon. Right, so what else do I have here in my notes? Yeah, I think that's about it. There are Muslims who, as he said the sudden penchant for paying their respects to the recently departed Queen by singing the national anthem, which just tells us that there are Muslims in the mosques who sing the national anthem because they are grateful to this country. So Bodhi is not so much representative of Muslims, but what he is representative of is a sect that wishes to drive a wedge between people who want to absorb themselves into British society and nutcases who just want to make things worse. He's one of those. It's a very nasty thing to do. And I'm actually extremely angry, although I'm not exactly hopping up and down now, but then I'm too full of Christmas pudding, I suppose. Okay, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.